is the Got Out channel. We're out here hiking today again, and I'm going to show you something that one of my subscribers, one of you guys out there, sent me, and I really appreciate it. It gives me an opportunity to you know, test something out, but this is also something that I really needed and wanted. It's hammock straps. So I have a hammock. Let me show you. This is the hammock I got right here. I've had this for a few years. It's kind of the cheap version you get on Amazon. I'll put a link to this one. I also have like a nice backpacking one. This one's a little bit heavy. It's, you know, it's not that bad, but you need straps. You need something to hang it up with. So what I've been using is just a rope, which I don't have in here right now, but a rope works pretty good. But the problem is you get it tied onto these trees. These are the trees I'm going to use right here. And I purposely picked a couple trees that are pretty far apart just to kind of test the capacity of these straps as far as like distance goes. And that's about probably 14 feet in between these two trees here. So we'll see if that works. There's a lot of trees that are closer together, but like I said, I just want to kind of test it and see if there's like some spring to the straps, that kind of thing. But if you use a rope, then what happens is you tie the rope on here, and even if you use a good knot, you know, it'll kind of strip out the bark a little bit. So sometimes you put sticks up to kind of protect the tree. And then getting the rope undone, you got these really tight knots that you got to deal with, which it just makes it a little bit harder and longer to set up. So I'm going to try these straps today. It's so awesome you guys sent me this. I think these are about 25, 30 bucks on Amazon. I'll put a link to this down below too, so you can check them out for yourself on Amazon. And these should come in pretty handy. The one thing that I did notice is they're a little bit heavy in a sense. And I think that's just because they're kind of long. I might not need them to be this long. It's not that heavy. I mean, that's probably 6 ounces for this one roll. So it's probably 12 ounces in between them. And then what is more heavy, you know, I'm just talking about the weight because a lot of times I'm hiking around with the backpack. So everything I put in there, you know, I got the water, I got stuff for the dogs, I got stuff for me. I got a little bit of emergency gear in there. It all starts to weigh down, and adding stuff like this, you know, it starts to make it heavier. So this probably isn't something I'm going to carry every time. It's just on special occasions when I know I want to hang the hammock out. So it also comes with these 2 carabiners, which, I mean, I guess they're weight rated. So they're heavier duty than like aluminum ones that you would get. These are stainless. So they must be weight rated, hopefully, or else I'm going to find my butt on the floor. And that's one of the tips I have. When I pick a spot to hang the hammock, I like to make sure there's not rocks beneath the area where the hammock's going to be lying. Like right here, there's a couple little rocks. So that's not too bad, but sometimes there'll be big chunky rocks. And I'd rather pick a spot that's really bare, just in case I do fall, that I'm just falling on grass or dirt, you know, something softer than rocks. So here, there are a few rocks here, which I can actually, see, I can actually just move these out of the way. Then that way, if I do have a fall, you know, I'm not going to get hurt. I just like to think like, I like to think ahead. See, something like that. If I fell on that, that would hurt. Okay, that took a little bit of effort. You know, I just like to think ahead of time, just so I don't get hurt, because things happen out here. The dogs and I were all alone out here, so if anything happens, I'm the one that has to deal with it. So I like to just make sure I'm not going to get hurt. Just double check things. One of the other things I do when I'm hanging a hammock is, of course, you want to check the tree for bees' nests. This isn't the tree, but these are the kind of trees you'll find bees' nests in. So you take a good look up here, look for bees, listen for bees, wasps, things like that. You know, this tree is actually dead. So the kind of good thing about that is, you know, I can check to make sure it's not going to fall over too, but I don't have to worry about damaging it because it's already dead. This tree over here is green, and you can see there's nothing up in it. Because you'll find there'll be bees' nests out here, and if you hang your hammock in a bee's nest and like you fall asleep or something, you could wake up with bees all over you. Let's get this hammock set up, and I'm just gonna go through it and show you my thought process. Hammocks are freaking awesome. Like if you do a hike and you hang a hammock, you're gonna find it so freaking comfortable. A lot of people camp with them and they sleep in them full time. You know, I don't do that. I've always backpacked and just carried a tent and sleep flat on the ground. But for a nap or even as like a chair, it's super nice. So what I'm kind of excited about is these straps will allow me, hopefully, to set the tent up super, super quick. That way I can take it on a hike, like a little day hike, and I may not take a nap in the hammock, but I just want to kind of have a place to sit. There's a chair I've been looking at, which is a lightweight chair, but it's over $100 to get that chair. So if I can have my hammock sort of be my chair for when I'm out day hiking, that could be kind of a little bit of a game changer. So it's got these little instructions here. 4 steps: wrap, loop, tighten, clip. So wrap it, then loop it through itself. That makes sense. Tighten it, and then you clip it. So the clip, I guess it just goes through one of the loops. I don't know how this works. That's it. Okay. 2 free carabiners included. Wrap it. I can do that and do that. But then what do you tighten it to? See, it's got this loop here on the end. So this is what you loop it around through itself. And then along the length of it, it's got loops all the way along the length of it. And so that contributes to the weight because it's basically a double thickness strap. It's got these loops all the way through it. So you can hang the carabiner and thus your hammock anywhere along the length of it. Carabiner. Okay, I figured it out. It's actually pretty easy. Once you put the strap through this loop here, then it gets tightened because you put the weight of the hammock right there, right on it. And these carabiners have a little locking mechanism. So hopefully that'll be strong enough. It looks plenty strong. You can see what hardware this kind of cheap hammock comes with. I think these hammocks are about 18, 20 bucks on Amazon. And it just has this short rope, about 1 foot of rope attached to it. And then this little hook. And that's worked really well. Like I said, just with rope, I take rope and tie it to this tree. That's worked really well. I've done that for years. But I can tell you already, this hammock strap is pretty awesome. Look how much extra length I have. So I thought I picked like a pretty wide gap between these 2 trees, but I could pick probably almost twice this distance with these straps. So that gives you a lot more opportunity. Like these 2 trees right here, like I could go from this tree over to that tree with these straps. Yeah, this is going to be plenty sturdy. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. And in a way, like if I wanted to make it lighter, I could cut these straps so I'm not carrying that much weight. So that's definitely an option. I don't usually modify stuff that I get right away. You know, sometimes you get it and you're like, oh, I'm going to change this right away to fit what I'm doing. But it's better to just keep it as it is. That's what I find. And then use it for a little while like it is in your day-to-day routine, you know, different situations, different kind of weather, different kind of landscape. Out here makes a big difference, you know, like what kind of trees are out in the different areas. And then when I find like I'm not using the full length of this strap, I think it's about 12 feet long, something like that, then I can trim it and just use the number of loops that just carry the number of loops that I need. That'll reduce the weight and the size in my pack. And I can fit that all in the same little bag as the hammock. So I got the tree right here, then I got the strap. This end of the strap has a big loop on it. And this is what goes around you put that around the tree. Then you just pull the rest of the length through that loop. Just like that, and now it's tight. Then your carabiner is gonna go right on this loop, any one of these loops here, onto the hammock. So since this tree is living, we don't want to damage the bark, because you can see how that we'll be pulling on that, and that can kind of damage some of this bark a little bit. It's usually not that big of a deal, depending on how much movement and how long you're set up in the hammock for. But I'll show you a little trick that I do to protect the tree. A situation like this where you've got a lot of trees and a lot of branches on the ground, it's really easy to just take a couple extra seconds and you just find some sticks and, you know, break them to like half a foot or foot in size, and you just wedge them in there in between the strap and the tree trunk. And you can see how it keeps the strap away from the actual tree. And you just have these branches kind of pushing into the bark. That way, like when you put, see when I put this on here, the strap isn't actually even touching the tree at all. And that really helps. You don't always have to do that, you know, it depends, like I said, what kind of tree it is and everything. You know, and let me know what you guys do. Because, I mean, I'm just you know, I've only been doing nomad life for a couple years now. And, you know, I've been backpacking, I've been a backpacker for a lot longer than that. But I don't do everything right. And maybe you have a better way to do things. Let me know down in the comments. I've read some of your comments, and, you know, a lot of you guys leave really good comments. And, you know, I think about them a lot when I'm out here, because you give me some good ideas. Some people leave some kind of crappy comments too. That's all good. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Just let us know you're watching. We like to know you're watching. The dogs and I, you know, we're just trying to learn about nomad life and show you what we're learning. And I'm not saying that I'm doing things the right way. I'm just doing things my way, and I make mistakes. And so I'm just showing you some of my mistakes, and hopefully you can get something out of what we're doing. Yeah, and you might learn something that's the wrong way of doing it. So don't take my advice, you know, figure things out for yourself. Everybody does things differently. And like I said, put it down in the comments, because I read all the comments. It's a lot of fun to read the comments when I'm out here basically by myself with the dogs all the time. All right, let's get this hammock set up and see how it rides. This is going to be awesome, because that was super easy, and I used the first loop on each one of these, so I have so much extra. It's kind of crazy how many extra loops I have. So from now on, like, I don't need the trees need to be at least this far apart, because you can see at first, like, I mean, I was sitting on the ground. Now I could mount these up higher, you know, a couple feet higher, but I just don't like to do that, because I have this other tip about hammock. This is one of my got out hammock safety tips. Let me know what you think about it. When I'm mounting the hammock, a lot of people think, you know, oh, it's a hammock, you want to be like hanging in the trees. And that's true. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're hanging in the trees, but you don't need to be hanging super high up off the ground. In fact, to me, that's a safety risk, because if you do have an accident, you know, the tree falls over, or one of the straps break, or the hammock breaks, or you just plain fall out of the tent, right? Like you spin out of the tent and you just fall out of the tent onto the ground. you're gonna have a long ways to fall, and that's gonna hurt. I mean, everybody's done that, right? Like, it hurts. So when I hang my hammock, I like to hang it so my butt, like when I'm laying in it like this, my butt is just a few inches off the ground, you know, far enough so no bugs or snakes or whatever. I mean, I guess a snake could still reach up and grab you or whatever, but it's mostly for bugs. You don't want the bugs coming off of the plants or the ground below you. So as long as you're up above that, then if you fall, you know, I'm only gonna fall, I think right now about maybe 8 inches. So that's gonna be a lot less painful if I was up like 3 or 4 feet up off the ground. So you take a look at this. You can see that distance there. It's not that far. I mean, you know, what is that, 8 inches? So if I fall, that's as far as I'm falling. And I've already cleared it of rocks and any big sticks, anything like that. So if I do fall, I'm not going to get hurt. And to me, that's really important. I don't like getting hurt out here. I try everything I can to not get hurt. One of the things I do, like a lot of people like knives and they're cutting stuff all the time. And I do have knives. I always have a knife. And I think in my pack, I probably got like 4 or 5 different knives. But I only pull them out basically in emergencies and if I really, really need it. I'd rather use like scissors if I can. Or a really small knife, or a knife that, you know, is not as dangerous as some other knives, depending on how it opens and closes and things like that. You always need a knife. You need a good knife, and I have a lot of really good knives. But I know the more I bring it out, the more likely I am to get a serious cut, and that can be devastating, you know, as far as like having to go to the hospital, take care of yourself, then I got to manage the dogs and all that stuff. Now, some people will say, and it's true too, like the more you use a knife, the better you get with it, the more practiced you are with it. So actually the safer you become. And I believe that too. That's actually really true. But with my lifestyle, I don't tend to need a knife too often. So, you know, I do, you know, for cooking, I do use a knife. When I'm out and about hiking, doing things, I don't whittle wood or carve my name into things. You know, if there's something I can break rather than actually have to use a knife, then I go for that instead, because I know there's just less chance of an injury for me, because I'm not a knife enthusiast. You know, I'm not always using a knife all the time. So I'm good with a knife, but I'm not like an expert with a knife. I don't know why I got into that. I mean, I guess I'm just talking about safety. Like safety out here when you're a nomad is just, it's super important. I really like these straps. Thanks to the subscriber that sent me these straps, because you can tell I am going to get a lot of use out of them, and they work really good. And now I'm kind of thinking like, oh, they seem kind of thin. Are they going to snap or something? But they seem to have a good construction, and they had good reviews. That's why these are the straps that I wanted, because they had the good reviews on Amazon. And like I said, I'll put a link to these exact straps so you can take a look at them on Amazon for yourself. And I'll put a link to this hammock, which is the cheapo hammock. But you know, this thing, I've had this for many years, and it works really, really well. It's a few ounces heavier than, I'll put a link to the other kind of hammock you can get, which is a backpacker's hammock, which is basically the same size, same design. It's just lighter. It's lighter fabric. It's probably a little stronger, better fabric, but it's lighter, and it comes with lighter hardware and everything. It's a lot lighter. Let's go look at Mr. Echo, see what he's doing. What are you doing, Echo? He's been a good dog. Now I am seeing these little bugs out here, that these are kind of the crappiest bugs. So I hope I'm not getting bit. Sometimes they don't bite, but sometimes they do. And when they do, you know it. And it takes you till the nighttime before you feel it. So I could be screwing myself over out here. It doesn't look like they're biting him. Yeah, they might be. Oh, they're all over his butt. Just these tiny, tiny bugs. This is Nomad Hammock Life on the Got Out channel. This is kind of revolutionary. with how simple it was to set these straps up. I'm kind of excited. Give us a like. Let us know you're watching. We like to know you're watching. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys.